your child, help us. Tell your coworkers HHS can stop the torture of disabled people. Please help us.
They're playing the audio of the screams of disabled people getting shocked, and it is bone-chilling.
I don't know if you've ever gone out to dinner with like 3 people who use wheelchairs. Now take 200 of your closest friends to a building and cram it full. Suddenly, nothing's moving anywhere.
Stop the torture of disabled children and adults. You can help us.
Anyone can be disabled at any time. You could be in an accident. If you live long enough, you will be disabled.
My name is Ryan O'Connell, and I have a mild form of cerebral palsy. So I've always felt like I've had one foot in the able-bodied world and one foot in the disabled world. Today I'm in D.C. with hundreds of protesters who have come here to fight for disability rights.
Most Americans live in freedom. They have this thing called the Constitution that says they have the right to life and liberty. We have actually looked at the Constitution, and there is no asterisk in it that says, unless you're too disabled.
It is 6:30 in the morning. We are here getting lined up, ready to protest day 1 with ADAPT. We're expecting over 200 people today. The first stop is Health and Human Services.
Stop the shock, or we won't stop. Stop the shock, or we won't stop.
The group is heading to HHS to protest a controversial issue that many consider one of their most important. Stop the shock.
The use of contingent electric shock devices is an inhumane practice that has never been appropriate and has always constituted an unscientific and unethical practice.
Stop the Shock is ADAPT's name for their demand to end electric shock treatment on disabled patients, which is still happening at the Judge Rottenberg Center in Canton, Massachusetts.
The Judge Rottenberg Educational Center is the only one in the country known to use electrical skin shocks for its most aggressive patients.
The shock's not like you hear the JRC people say it's just a bee sting or it's just a pinch. It hurts badly.
The use of electric shock on disabled individuals has garnered enormous backlash from clinical psychologists and the ACLU, who call the practice cruel and inhumane. Despite several lawsuits against the center, the courts have held that the practice is within legal standards of treating individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities.
Ow! Ow!
Proponents of this type of therapy, including many parents of disabled residents of the center, argue that it's a last resort for individuals prone to violence, and that it's been effective in treating them without having to rely on medications.
We feel that device has changed the life of our son, and it really should be available for the desperate families who need this.
But even the FDA has proposed regulations that would ban the practice. They've yet to sign off on them, however, despite years of protests from ADAPT.
The FDA has written the rules to make this illegal. They just have to release them. Reiterate, you wouldn't do this to your family member, you can stop it being done to ours. Personally engage, one-on-one. Don't just stay still. Follow the person and keep talking to them as you go. The more they hear you, plead with them. If you see someone who's military going in, talk about how this can't be done to enemy combatants.
Okay.
All right? Cool. Thank you, sweetie. I know you're great with this. Thank you.
Stop the torture. Stop the shock.
Disabled people are being tortured at the Judge Rottenberg Center. We are begging everyone to work with us to stop the torture of disabled Americans. I can see you don't want to look at me because you don't want to have to acknowledge that this is going on. This is what we live with every day, knowing disabled people are being tortured.
They're protesting the Human and Health Services building because they are the only place where they have the power to change these laws. And one of the tactics they're doing is they're playing the audio of the screams of disabled people getting shocked. The screams are visceral. They're like these guttural, awful, awful screams. And it's just wild to know that this is still happening in the US. People are clearly uncomfortable by it, you can see, but historically, people with disabilities make people uncomfortable, so it's all tracking. It's really interesting, though, seeing them try to avoid them, because it's kind of like, honey, you're outnumbered for once.
These regulations would stop the torture of disabled children and adults. You can help
One of ADAPT's youngest activists is 20-year-old Priya Penner. She began working with ADAPT when she was 14 years old. What do you hope to accomplish with this protest?
Well, so I think what's really cool about the way we phrase things here in ADAPT, technically this is an action. Protesting, okay, you go and you show that you're against something, right? And you don't necessarily have concrete demands and a concrete way of getting there. And an action clearly has and states those demands. We present our demands and we expect those demands to be met.
Have you been arrested before?
I have been arrested. It's not that many, that many. It's like 6. ADAPT does not allow juveniles to get arrested. So when I turned 18, that was my first arrest, that
So you've been
action.
arrested 6 times in 2 years?
Yes. That's nothing.
Is there a point of pride in how many arrests you get? I mean,
It is definitely a point of pride, a badge of honor, if you will. I think, though, it's very clear to folks here, there's a reason why we do this, and that's to free our people from nursing homes, to stop the shock against disabled people. So there is a point of pride, but to make sure it's not about us.
right. As a young activist, do you ever get tired just having to fight for your basic rights to live?
I think as a disabled person, you get really tired. We're also very tired as queer people. We're also very tired as people of color. It astounds me that people don't necessarily understand what we're doing or, say, oh, that's good for you. Like, this is for you too. These ramps that you use your strollers on, that's because of us.
Yeah.
Those buses that are accessible, and when you break your leg, that's us. The shit you use every single day and you don't even think about, that's us. That's our work.
ADAPT is one of the most effective civil disobedience groups in America. It started back in the 70s when a handful of activists fighting for wheelchair lifts on buses decided to surround public buses and stall them for days. Today, the surge in ADAPT's membership and activism has really been spurned by the Trump administration, which has pursued an agenda that ADAPT members say literally puts their lives at risk.
Here to kick off the 2018 Spring National ADAPT Action is our own, the wonderful, amazing Cassie James Holdsworth.
Everybody, young and old, and all you new people, you're awesome. People are going to go awesome. We're going to try to get Spitfire and everybody else arrested. We hope you all get arrested. How about that?
Most of us remember when President Trump made headlines after mocking a disabled reporter.
I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
But since then, his administration has taken actual steps towards stripping the community of hard-won rights. Since taking office, Trump immediately tried to dismantle the Affordable Care Act, which would have left thousands of disabled people without health insurance.
Outside Senator Mitch McConnell's office, a different take. Capitol Police arrested a number of demonstrators, many in wheelchairs, staging what they called a die-in, protesting the GOP bill and its proposed deep cuts to Medicaid.
Recently, the administration also allowed states to impose work requirements for people who receive Medicaid, which will result in fewer people with disabilities being eligible. And to top it off, Congress is currently considering a bill that will make it harder to enforce the American Disability Act. What is the best case scenario coming out of ADAPT this year? What do you hope to achieve?
What we're trying to accomplish is increased support and awareness for our legislation, the Disability Integration Act.
The Disability Integration Act is one of the most crucial pieces of civil rights legislation that ADAPT is fighting for right now. If passed, it would ensure that people living with disabilities are not forced to live in nursing homes or institutions against their will.
Do you have the right to life and liberty in an institution? No! The Disability Integration Act was written by ADAPT, and it solves that problem. It will free our people. There is so much public support for the bill, you can now look at the list and see who's not on it. So that is why we are here in D.C.
We'll see you at 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah! Thank you, my dear.
Seeing all these disabled people together in one room, which I've never seen before, ever, and it seems wild as a disabled person, be like, wow, there's more than 1 or 2 people.
There's these corporate training things where, fall into my arms and experience trust. Okay.
Right.
Do that surrounded by Capitol Police trying to drag you away, and you have a beginning of a sense of what it's like to be an ADAPT.
Disability rights has never been the sexiest of political topics, but I had the chance to speak with one man who's been championing the cause for years, Senator Bob Casey.
for the people in this audience and behind me who have a disability, you taught me that nothing about us without us, right?
What do you think of ADAPT's tactics?
Very effective.
Yeah.
All you had to do was look at 2017. I think ADAPT was indispensable. Absent the determined advocacy of the disability community and groups like ADAPT, the bill would have passed and they would have repealed the ACA, thrown millions of people off of health care, and they would have decimated Medicaid. So more than 20 million Americans would have lost their health care. And it didn't happen because they often literally put their body on the line. And look, this isn't just like a Democrat-Republican thing. They show up everywhere. They show up at my office, they show up at every office. They're challenging us to make the concerns of tens of millions of Americans a higher priority.
Next up, we headed to the Senate buildings where ADAPT members were set on getting more senators to co-sponsor their bill, the Disability Integration Act. We are here at the Senate building where members of ADAPT are splitting into two groups. They're planning on occupying a Republican senator's office and a Democratic senator's office, which is obviously illegal. So we'll see what happens.
Okay, nice and straight. You got this. Good job. Jones, you got this. Go spit. Go spit.
The first group headed to Democratic Senator Patty Murray's office, while I headed in with a group demanding support from Republican Senator Lamar Alexander, the chairman of a key health committee whose support for this bill is critical.
If this one can go. So try 4R. Try 4R.
She's got it. All right, let's go. Go out and to the right. Out and to the right, for favor. Start up.
People are starting to get escorted out by the police.
Stop the bullshit. Stop the crap.
Now it's time to face a death. Stop the bullshit. Cut the crap. Now it's time to face a death.
Took back my humanity. Well, I went down to Alexander's house and I took back what he stole from me. Well, I took back my dignity. I took back my humanity. About to get down.
So I just left the Senate building. There are a bunch of ADAPT members that have been arrested that are lined up on the sidewalk. I have seen actually the cops be very respectful, and it was amazing to see kind of peaceful, nonviolent protest in action. It really is seeing like our Constitution at work. Miracle of miracles, you did not get arrested today. Can you please tell us why?
While folks were being arrested in Senator Alexander's office, Senator Patty Murray's office decided to co-sponsor the Disability Integration Act. So we went in and within 2 hours came out with the ranking member of the committee co-sponsoring the bill and agreeing to work with us to secure other co-sponsors.
Do you feel like a weight of pressure lifted off your shoulders a little bit?
I felt like, yeah, if that means you want to jump up and down and scream with joy, yes, that was exactly how I felt.
Yes, honey, it's just the tip of the iceberg.
It is, and honestly, we're very excited. This is a great outcome today.
I didn't understand how bad it really was for people with disabilities. I feel very naive in saying that, but it's true. So this whole experience has been very eye-opening, and it also shows that we have such a long way to go in terms of disability, but I really do believe that representation and normalization is the first step. As of today, the Disability Integration Act has garnered 24 official co-sponsors. These are senators who have pledged that they will support the bill if and when it's set to be voted on. ADAPT will still need to ensure the support of at least 27 other senators for it to pass. And recently, they've taken the following senators to their homes in a determined attempt to get the signatures that they need.